Good morning, everybody. Officially, we are half of the Monday Morning Cooking Club, Jacqui,
Hi.
Lisa, and we are here to share with you an amazing, beautiful recipe called lamb and date tagine. And this recipe has quite a history because it almost like changed USA morning television, really. It made such an impact, and we're going to share with you that story because we're still laughing about it. How many years later? 3 years later.
Yeah.
Still laughing. So before I get into ingredients and stuff, we just want to start with the onion because it takes 10 minutes and it has to be 10 minutes. There's no shortcuts. So let's get it on and then we'll start chatting and tell you about the other ingredients and everything. So I just wanted to remind you all of our fantastic, I think, rule in the Monday Morning Kitchen is green board means onion and garlic. So you know never to cut anything else, particularly watermelon or rockmelon, on the
you won't
green
have
board.
to do that once. I think I did it once with rockmelon, and I'd washed it, but it still had that slight small.
Can't. So this is how I cut an onion. I don't know how you do, and I just sometimes I'm quite lazy and don't waste time getting the peel off, and I take a layer off. Do you do that sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it comes off beautifully.
And if I'm really lazy, sometimes I'll even take off a bit of onion.
Yeah, that's right.
I just can't be bothered.
I know.
So she's taken off both ends and de-skinned.
And I use this, my favourite. Do you use these?
Yes.
Yeah. Victorinox steak knife.
I've just replaced now for my hot pink ones because I had black ones, and then the next ones that come on are a new colour.
I just find it really good for everyday cutting. And we bought ours at Ever10 online, which is very good. That's EVERTEN, and they have lots of great stuff. Okay, and then what I do is I put it long ways, if that makes sense. So that's how the onion would sit, and I'm doing it that way, and I'm cutting along the lines that the onion already has with a finger on each side and just holding it, pushing it together and making a cut, making small cuts. This isn't super fine, this is just chopped. You know, there's chopped finely, chopped roughly, and this is in between. Because you don't need to do it.
And this recipe is half the recipe that is in the book.
Yeah. So that's right, that's why we're doing one. So that's the onion. Now I'm going to turn it around and cut across the lines I've just made. I'm going to keep my fingers like that so I don't cut them. And
she's got her fingers tucked under with the knife resting against her knuckles.
The knife's not quite resting with this one because but a big knife would be resting 100%.
True.
So cutting it like this, and then you get a good normal size chop. Not rough, not fine, perfectly in between. In the meantime, I'm going to heat up 1 tablespoon of oil. Yeah, that'd be great. So the pan we're using is, I'm using this fry pan. It's a deep fry pan. You can use a non-stick pot. You can use a Le Creuset if you've got the right size. You can use a non-stick saucepan, which I did one in this morning, which I'll show you. So whatever works size-wise for you. The meat is this quantity. This is 600 grams of lamb. So I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of olive oil, more or less, in here. And I'm going to heat it, and I'm going to start cooking the onions. Now, the thing about onions for me is that there's a number of ways a recipe can direct you to cook it. So I can tell you to cook them till they're golden and crisp, or golden and well cooked, or pale and translucent, or softened. Whichever one you do, you need to taste it. It shouldn't have any crunch left at all, okay? Because you don't want to put a raw onion in this dish. So we're going to cook it like this, and sometimes the lid on actually helps. So I'm putting the chopped onion in with the oil.
And just someone else is asking, it was book 3, The Feast Goes On, with us on the front cover.
So I've just got the onion and oil, and we're just going to cook that for 10 minutes. I'm going to give it a stir and mix it all together so the oil coats all the onion. Okay, and then lid on, lid off. I sort of vary. I don't know what you do. Like if I want the translucent onions with no browning, then I'll more likely to put the lid on for half of the cooking time. But it's whatever happens with the onions.
Once you put the lid on, I feel like it stews a bit more.
But for some of it, yeah. But I do half probably for this. So I'm going to leave that. We'll look at the time. So and then 10 minutes we will visit it again. I'll stir it in between. Let's talk about ingredients. Okay, so as Jack said, the recipe in our book is for 1.2 kilos of lamb, and it's lamb shoulder off the bone, so you need to ask your butcher to do it, or you're going to have a hard job cutting it off the bone. I thought of doing it myself, and then I thought, you know, why? If the butcher's happy to do it. We halved it. I'm not sure why I thought I should halve it, but I did when I sent out the ingredients, because I thought in these COVID times, particularly in Melbourne, no one's cooking for big groups. But maybe
so how many would this feed?
So I think 600 grams feeds about 4. I think it's a good meal for 4 with other things.
Yeah.
You know, with some veggies and salad and couscous, which we'll talk about later. So let's go through the ingredients. So you need 600 grams of boneless lamb shoulder, which is a very lovely, well marbled meat that needs long, slow cooking. Do you want to run through the rest?
And it's cubed. So you get your butcher to cube it in quite large cubes, because if they're small, I don't like small bits
either.
of meat.
I agree.
They end up like bullets, but where you get the nice big cubes, then it cooks nicely.
Yeah, see that lamb. Okay. So please feel free to ask questions and we'll answer them as we go along.
So we've got 600 grams of boneless lamb shoulder, which has been cubed by your butcher. 1 onion chopped, which Lisa has already done, and it's cooking now in the olive oil. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Half a teaspoon of ground ginger, ground cinnamon, and ground cumin.
2 teaspoons. Half a tablespoon.
Sorry. Half a teaspoon of ground ginger and ground cinnamon.
Yeah.
Half a tablespoon of ground cumin. 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. 200 mils of water or beef stock. Do you want to say something?
I'll talk about.
Okay.
Just want to show you my beef stock.
Look at that. It's not liquid. It's like gel. It's beautiful.
Full jelly. And during the session, I will tell you how I made this. I made it on Thursday. I didn't make it for this. I made it for a French onion soup, but that's another story shortly. Go on. Okay, so that's stock.
So we've got the stock. You can use water, but the beef stock will give it a richer flavour. 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar, or if you don't have coconut sugar, you can use raw sugar. A pinch of saffron threads. Half a teaspoon of sea salt, a tablespoon of lemon juice, 75 grams of medjool dates, which are pitted and halved.
Which we'll do, yeah.
You've got to make sure those pits are out.
It's really annoying.
And 1/4 of a slice or wedge of preserved lemon. You can substitute that for lemon rind if you don't have any preserved lemon. Half a teaspoon of olive oil to gently fry up the almonds, which 20 grams of flaked or slivered almonds. Some fresh coriander for on top. Yep. Fresh coriander. And if you don't like coriander, we'll talk about substitutes later. And just some sea salt and fresh ground pepper to get it to your right seasoning.
Venetia's asked, can you keep it in the whole shoulder instead of cubes? I don't think that's right for this dish.
Needs to infuse the flavours.
I think it needs to be cooked in cubes. And if you wanted the flavour of it, you just have to change the recipe a bit. You know, you can have the same spices, but I don't know how you keep coating that shoulder. I guess you'd have to make some sort of a basting juice out of it and just baste it while it cooks for 4 hours or 5 hours as a whole shoulder. But if you want a whole shoulder recipe in
book 1,
book 1, we've got Rayleigh's shoulder with pomegranate and mint, which is amazing. Rayleigh's lamb shoulder. And in this book, it's always about the food. We have an incredible Roman lamb from Myrna Rosen, which is one of the best lamb recipes in existence in the world.
Someone's asking if you can substitute beef.
Yes, you could. Absolutely. You just need to adjust the cooking time. Yes. Because lamb, beef. Okay. Actually, beef and lamb. I was thinking veal and lamb. Lamb and beef are probably the same-ish.
Do you think? Doesn't it go hard, beef, when you cook it for 2 hours?
You've got to just get a beef shin. That's what you need to use, or beef neck. And
is that like chuck? Or is that nothing to do with
I don't like the ones that are called chuck and all that, because I don't know what they are exactly. I know it's a part, but I always like to do beef shin when I'm doing slow cooking and follow the recipe and taste it after 2 hours and see if you think it's cooked or not. That's the best advice I can give. But it's usually 2 hours for beef.
Right.
And how much cinnamon? There was a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And this is starting to sizzle now, which is lovely. And so I don't really want them brown. I don't need them brown. I'm just sauteing them so they're soft and not raw. So they're keeping on going. It's been 5 minutes so far. Okay, so you've got all the ingredients, and I think that's, if everyone's got the ingredients, you can ask as we go if you're not clear on anything. But I want to show you a clip of us. Okay, so we were lucky enough on our tour for It's Always About the Food to go to LA. We took ourselves to LA and we thought it would be fun to promote the book there. And the publisher in America organised us to be on the Hallmark Channel morning show, Home, what was it called? I can't remember. Home something. And so Jax will tell you the whole story in a minute because it's hilarious, but we just want to show you the introduction. I watched it this morning and I haven't seen it for so long. I just want you to imagine how nervous we were, okay? So this is not us here talking to you, our friends in our kitchen. This is us talking to morning America, however many people. So it's a bit scary. Okay, so
it was huge. It was so huge and so overwhelming.
Okay.
And we really were nervous.
It's only a couple of minutes. Just bear with me for a second while
the screen will probably go black and then Lisa will start the video.
Okay. Okay, just bear with me for 1 second. I know that's not what you wanted to see. Here it is. Let's go.
Everybody, they are 4 friends. I'm the 5th from Australia who are all totally obsessed with food. Who isn't? Please welcome to our home the authors of the Monday Morning Cooking Club. It's always about the food. Marilyn Chalmers, Lisa Goldberg, Natanya Eskin, and Jacqui Israel. Welcome, ladies. I love this idea so much. The Monday Morning Cooking Club. Where did this come from?
So we've been cooking together for 10 years, more than 10 years, every Monday morning.
This is Lisa, by the way.
And our aim is to search for the best recipes from the best cooks in the whole world. That's the aim, right? So we imagine us all in the kitchen testing and eating and arguing, debating, debating. You know,
finishing each other's sentences.
Exactly, all the time. You know, because we have to decide which recipes we're making in the book. Are they in? Are they out?
Which recipes did make it in the book?
Brilliant ones, right?
So can I ask you something? Have you been approached to do a television program?
We'd love to.
My idea, I'm producing them. Don't get any funny ideas out there. So
It's so important to join together food, family, memories, love.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And clearly you have accomplished just that by getting all the greatest recipes in the world and putting them into a series of books. And this is your latest book. We would love to see some of the beautiful recipes in here. So walk us through some of these.
This soup is a blend of coconut and carrots, and then you have a little bit of heat from harissa, which is a Moroccan spice.
That's beautiful.
Oh, and this came from a beautiful old grandmother from India. She gave us all her kitchen secrets.
What was it, a fish curry?
A fish curry,
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
That's my favourite in the book. A dessert cake packed full of dates, and then a warm butterscotch sauce poured over the top.
This is like that.
That's the most with the dates. The package.
Yeah.
I love dates.
This is like a sisterhood of the traveling food.
We have,
Oh,
and we have this unique relationship. We like to call it part good marriage, part best friends, and great colleagues.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
really cool.
Yeah. And as a result, we've got 3 amazing books full of recipes from home cooks from all over the world.
And you also have a television program in the making. Today we are going to make lamb tagine with dates. So Jacqui, you're going to get started on this. How do we do this?
Okay, so I'm going to start sauteing the onions, which are chopped in the pan already.
Which you have to really cook through a good 10 minutes. You always want your onions really soft.
Is that for flavor?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to ever come out with a raw onion taste.
Oh, I have to stop that. Let's do this. Yeah, sorry guys.
Cinnamon,
Yeah.
ginger.
All right, is that good? Are we back
How
on?
good was that? That was awesome. What an experience. Who would have ever thought we would be on American TV, on the morning show, at Universal Studios, on the Hallmark Channel?
I hope you enjoyed that little snippet. If you want to watch more of it and all our interesting, some awkward, some fantastic TV experiences, it's on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Monday Morning Cooking Club and they're all there. Some of them I couldn't even watch again, actually. Anyway, okay, so let's have a look. Our onions are going really well now. They're sort of pale golden. There's no crispy edges or anything. And what I always do, and I always tell everybody, is the only way to tell if they're really done is to taste it. They still look crunch. I'm going to give it another minute. And we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the USA thing, the funny bit that I love to tell.
So our best memory of that day was arriving at Universal Studios. We got picked up in a limousine and we're transported into Universal Studios. And as we're arriving, people are like craning their necks trying to see who's in the car. And I thought, you know, I'll wind down the window and wave out at the people. And they waved back, not knowing who we were. Anyway, we kept driving in and we were shown to our trailers. Did we have a trailer each? Or
No, we had like a whole little house.
A whole little house trailer where we would get dressed and we would then have to go and have makeup done and hair done. So we got changed into our outfits, ready to have hair and makeup done. And we went into the studio, didn't we? And the hostess that was there, and I don't remember her name except that she was very tall.
Oh, we saw her. Yeah.
Said
It was the rehearsal.
It was the rehearsal. That's right. And she said to us, "So when are you girls going to go and get ready?" And we laughed because we were already ready.
So we had already had our dresses and our heels and had our makeup done. It was very funny.
Maybe it was funny at the time,
but it was hilarious. We felt like I don't know what we felt like, but we were very out of place there in a way. And they're also glamorous and all had such high heels on. And that row of people along the side were stars from other shows. Like that guy, the guy who loved the dates, Akbar, he's the guy from American Ninja.
Yeah. And he is big time, Charlie. We had photos with him. He was buying the book and it was very exciting.
Anyway, all right, on to this. So onions are good. Now we're going to add the spices, and again, we've got a half a teaspoon of ginger and cinnamon and 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, and I'm going to sprinkle them over the onion. I'm going to turn the heat up. As Jack said to me earlier, it's really important when you're adding new ingredients and you want them to cook to turn up the heat sometimes, and this one is a perfect example, and I'm going to do this.
Especially if you're going to add like tinned tomatoes or something which is room temperature and you're adding it to something hot, you want to turn up the heat, and as soon as it's come to the boil or whatever, you can reduce it down.
Yeah, it's true. You sort of want something to happen when it lands in the pan.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to cook this for 1 minute. Now, the recipe says to put the lamb in now and brown it with the onion. But from years of cooking, are you the same as me? I have found that if I brown them in the same pan that the onions are at the same time, the onions just burn, and it's very hard to avoid that. And I don't want them to go crisp, and I don't want them to burn. So I actually always take the onions out at this point, just put them aside for a moment, and just brown the meat. You've still got all the lovely bits in the pan. We're not losing anything.
All the juices and spices, just the onions are coming out.
So that's going in there. Okay, and I'm going to put another tablespoon or probably a couple of teaspoons of the olive oil. You know, I'm not that fussed about how much olive oil I'm putting in it because, well, I'll show you in a minute why. I don't mind lots of olive oil and things. If you're particularly concerned about the olive oil or the fat in it, what you can do is cook it, put it in the fridge overnight. All the fat will come to the surface, and I'll show you how it does that later. Remove it and then heat it up. So I don't know about you, but you can't put in all that lamb at once, because what will happen is you'll have stewed lamb, and that's not what we want. We want it to sizzle, we want it to catch a bit, and we want it to be really brown.
So Lisa's doing it in batches. She said maybe 3 batches for that amount, so that you can really get a nice browning on all sides of the lamb. Rather than if you put all the lamb in together, the juice comes out and it's just sitting in sort of water, the watery juice of the lamb.
So I've got it on full heat at the moment, and I'm using a non-stick pan, so I am going to get lots of bits all over it, but when you cook it with the liquid, it'll all come off and it'll just add flavour, and it's amazing. Okay, so I'm just tossing it around till it's brown all over.
And it happens quite quickly because it's on quite a high heat.
And I'm just browning it. It doesn't have to be super, super dark, just browned all over. I don't want to see any raw meat, if possible. The thing about tagines is, I mean, for those of you who've never heard of a tagine or don't really know much about it, I don't know much about it, but I do know that it's the Moroccan vessel. It's a conical shaped earthenware thing, and that's called a tagine, and you make a tagine in the tagine. So the dish is the tagine and the tagine is the tagine.
And the recipes come from Ronnit Robbaz, who was making it for weddings and all sorts of functions that she had. She must be making it in larger quantities than 600 grams.
I think so. And she liked it for weddings and stuff because it actually, what was it? The ginger and the cinnamon.
Well, the ginger
supposed to
cuts
be warmth
through,
and-
yes, the spices. And I mean, you can smell
And then
now
there's a bit
the
more oil, isn't there?
spices are beautiful.
Okay, so as you can see, I'm not
Next
shy
batch.
to add more, and I'm going to do the next batch. You know, I'm tempted to chuck it all in, but I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm going to chuck it all in just for.
There's enough
just
room
for
on the
time,
base.
You know, if you're cooking it at home and you do have time, I will just do it carefully and in batches, so it's much better. So back to tagines. What I do know is that a lot of tagine recipes don't require the onions being fried, don't require the meat being brown. They just layer everything, the onions at the bottom, and then I think the meat and then the vegetables. And it's a beautiful thing, but this is a different recipe that requires this caramelization of the meat, which is what we're looking for.
Smells so good.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just let that brown for a minute more and talk about my stock, because once that's brown, I'm going to put everything back. So this is beef stock, and it's beautifully gelatinous, which is how you want your stock to be. And if anyone wants the recipe for this, I actually used a cross between a Martha Stewart recipe and a random one online. But I'll tell you what I did. I did 3 kilos of beef bones. That's a lot. I've got a huge pot. 3 kilos of beef bones, 2 leeks, 2 onions, 2 carrots, 2 sticks of celery, and a bit of olive oil, and a bunch of thyme, parsley, and salt and pepper. Peppercorns, I should say, and salt. So you have to roast the bones. So you cover the bones with oil, bit of oil. You put it in a 200-degree oven for about an hour because you want them caramelized and roasted, exactly what we're doing here. Then in the meantime, you get your big pot, you wet off the vegetables in some olive oil, which means you cook them till they're just starting to brown and soften. And then you add the bones into the vegetables. So it's not like a chicken soup where everything's raw. You've got the cooked bones and the cooked vegetables. Then you put that in, you put water, like I did 6 times 4 litres, 6 times 2 litres, no more, 24 litres of water in it.
Oh wow, that's a big pot.
No, is that right? Does that make sense? No. I don't know, I'll have to check that. Water to cover anyway, bring it to the boil, add the herbs in, the salt, the pepper, and cook it for about 6 hours.
Oh, yum. And it just reduces right down.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to put all the meat and the onions back in. See, all that goodness is going back in. Haven't lost any of it, all good. Okay.
You really need the smell-o-vision with this.
I mean, it's really, really yum. There's all sorts of brown bits at the bottom of the pan, which will come off in the slow cooking. And now I'm going to add in the salt and the sugar. I'm using coconut sugar, right? Just because I never used it and thought it would be fun, but you could use raw sugar or sugar. The original recipe actually had honey in it, which is why honey was in your list. So if you'd rather use honey, use honey. So that's going in, the sugar and the salt. And now my beef stock, and I need about 200 mils. But I'm going to do a bit less, just for starters. I'd rather, you can always add more, it's harder to take it out. Okay.
Can I just ask you what brand
Yeah, this is Spring. I've had it for a long time. It's the most amazing cookware. Spring. Yeah, okay, sorry, what was that one? See, I've made the font a bit small. Yeah, so what's right? That's a good point. Once the stock comes to the boil, the beef stock, bring it down to a low simmer. Skim it. Forgot that. You must skim it and then just simmer it like a few bubbles here and there. And just leave it. I left it uncovered. I topped it up with water from time to time. Just left it on all day and it was amazing. Okay, so I'm just scraping up all the bits at the side now. And I've got a lovely...
Oh, you meant to skim this?
No, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Not this.
Not
okay,
that.
so I want to show you this. Is just, it doesn't look so lovely at this point, I've got to say.
It smells good though.
I'm going to put the rest of the stock in because I want the meat, I would say 3/4 covered. Okay, so that's it. So now that is going. If I was going to put it in the oven, I would put some baking paper on top of that. What can you smell? Can you smell something burning?
No.
Anyway, I would put baking paper on top, put the lid on and put it in the oven. I did it at 150 for maybe half an hour and then I turned it down to 140 and cooked it for 2 hours in total. Or I can put it on the stove now and simmer it for I'm going to start with 1.5 hours because I tasted my lamb yesterday and it was ready after 1.5 hours. So put that aside now. I think we've got everything in that we're supposed to have. I haven't left anything out. If you wanted saffron, I'm not a saffron fan. Do you like it?
I like it because sometimes you find the little bits through the dish. I quite like it.
It's not my thing, so I've
The taste.
I've
You don't
left,
like
I don't
the
like
taste.
the taste, so I've left it out. Of course, you can put it in. And the funny thing on that TV show is that the saffron's the most unimportant part, but she, the host, took us on a journey to talk about saffron, and it became like 5 minutes of our precious 15 minutes. She was talking about saffron, and they were getting statistics and whatever.
And we just leave it out.
Okay, so I'm going to just put this on to simmer. That's going to be someone's dinner tonight. And this is one I have made earlier. Sorry, just back to that for a minute. Bring it to the boil as I did before you put the lid on, and then put the lid on. Okay. Jack, sorry. Have you added the dates and the preserved lemon and lemon? No, we haven't. We've only added the sugar, the salt, and the stock.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We've still got the lemon.
So this is one I made this morning, and this is exactly what it looks like when it comes out of the oven, off the stove or whatever.
Someone's just asked if you can use a slow cooker rather than the oven. And if so,
I
how long?
I have no experience with slow cookers. You?
You definitely need to brown. You need to do that whole step of browning the meat first, because the slow cooker just tends to stew everything. So if you've browned the meat and put it in at a very low temperature, I'm sure it will be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks really lovely. It's sort of shiny. The meat's gone quite dark. It looks ready to eat. But now what we're going to do next is add in the dates and the lemon. And Jax is going to actually chop the dates. I don't know why I always think of you and the dates. I think because she got a Thermomix once. Remember? And you were bragging how good it is to chop dates, for a date slice or something. Can you repeat instructions for oven temp and time? Sure. I put it in at 150. First, I put baking paper on top of the meat, then the lid, put it in the oven at 150, and about half an hour later, I turned it down to 140, and because I was just winging it. And then I checked it after 1.5 hours, and it was ready, but I cooked it for 2. And that's it. And then you go on with this stage on the stove top. So remember to get these pits out of the dates. It's just, I made something the other day for somebody, a date cake. I know, and I'm so meticulous normally, and they were dried dates from the packet, and I went through each one and I took the pits out and whatever. And then at the dinner table, someone said, "Oh, I got a pit." And I was like, "Oh."
I want to know why they're called pits and not pips when they're in the
I
middle
know.
of a
It's
fruit.
good point, actually. I'm
Why
not sure.
have they changed it for dates?
So good question. Does anyone know?
So I
Okay.
have just run the knife down the middle of the date and extracted the pit, and now I'm just going to chop them.
Yeah. So I
Do you want them?
think we should halve them and then halve each half. The recipe just says halved, but I think you want the sweetness to go over more of the lamb, so I would cut them into quarters. And then I'm going to turn this on because pretend this has just come off. It's 2 hours. I'm going to taste it. I always taste along the way. It's really important. And also feel, and this lamb is super soft already. I can just pull it apart with my fingers, and it's already soft and delicious. It's very good. Needs a bit of salt though. All right. So what we're doing now is adding the dates to this, and at the same time the lemon juice.
I'm moving the pits away,
Yeah.
so you don't add them.
I think that's what I did. I think
Maybe.
that's probably what I did.
Yeah.
And when you're doing like 30 dates and you go date, pit,
Sometimes it
sometimes
gets
you go
swapped.
pit, date. That's right, and you forget to pick up that pit. It reminds me of actually, I'm going to put this in actually while I'm talking. Lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice.
So you're getting a variety of flavours. You've
And
got
the
the lemon
dates.
and the cinnamon, so you've got opposites.
And the recipe says to simmer that for 10 minutes, just so the dates plump up from the liquid and the flavour starts to go through. So we're just going to simmer that while we talk about the rest of the recipe.
Your recipe, someone's saying the recipe has honey. We've substituted.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The original recipe had honey in it, which is where I got your measurements from. Sorry. So you can substitute honey for the sugar if you like, or add it in. We didn't think it needed it. I'm not sure why in hindsight, but anyway, it's up to you. It's sort of optional, I guess.
How many dates was that? About 8?
It was about.
Because someone can't weigh them.
Yeah, I'll tell you because I've got these measured already. It is 5.
I'd throw in 6.
5 big fat medjool dates.
And
they're so good.
do you call them medjool or
Medjool.
medjool?
Oh, medjool. I don't know.
Medjool.
Okay. So Venetia says, when we were in Morocco, we were looking at carpets and the seller offered us a plate of fruit. My husband bit into a date pit. Oh, that someone had obviously put back in the,
Put back in the
no,
date.
they'd obviously
In the
pitted them
dish.
and not done it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I don't know why I think of this, when I used to make chicken sandwiches, like for the kids, for whatever, for parties or soccer things. And, you know, you buy your rotisserie chicken or you cook your chicken and you take all the meat off. And you know that little sharp bone in the
Yes.
leg?
Yes.
That could kill someone. I am freaking out about these bones always. So I actually counted the chicken legs and made sure I could count each of those bones so they're all accounted
So
for.
you knew.
It's sort of a funny thing. It's
And
like
when,
the date.
and when you put the dates in there with the liquid, it makes them plump, makes them clump up.
And we're going to simmer that for 10 minutes. We're going to sort of do a shortcut now, I think, because we don't need to stand here watching it for 10 minutes. But the idea is do it with the lid off because some of the liquid can now evaporate because it's cooked, the meat's cooked, and you now want a more of a sauce than the liquid. Okay, so that's good. That's going ahead. Now let's talk about the next thing. This recipe has preserved lemon in it. Yes, Judy, the honey is optional. We're not using it today. Preserved lemons. I mean, I think the world is divided on preserved lemons. Jack said to me this morning that she doesn't like them at all. I don't know.
They're strong. They're just a very strong flavour.
Will you talk about how you cut them? Because it's a very interesting way to cut them.
Well, they're in the jar. They come in segments, little wedges. I'm just taking off all the spices. And they're a bit, they've got quite a thick juice around it. And it comes like that with the skin on. And we're really just keeping the skin and we're getting rid of that whole membrane and just keeping that skin to use. But it's a very strong flavour. Are you willing to do a taste test and see?
Well, you make it ready and then we'll peel it and all that. So you don't use the whole quarter, as Jack said. You use just the skin and you get off all the pith. Someone said, can you use Silan? Yeah, that date syrup in this instead. Absolutely. Yeah, why not? Can the dish be frozen? Yeah, I think so. I think it would freeze quite well.
Yeah.
Because everything's soft and mushy, so you're not going to lose anything.
And the flavour just gets better. In fact,
if
you make it the day before, the flavour's even better the next day because it's just the flavours.
So Lois always rinses the preserved lemon with water before using.
It's in now.
Do we do that?
Yep. I'm leaving you to rinse.
That. Okay, she's going to go and rinse it. Okay, so this is bubbling away nicely. I agree with Jack. So I could have more dates in this. I love it sweet. I really, really love it. Okay, so let's have a look at this preserved lemon.
One washed preserved lemon. I'm sitting, by the way, not because I'm not well or anything like that. I'm sitting because Lisa is vertically challenged, and this makes us approximately the same height.
It's so true.
Sorry.
And otherwise, you wouldn't see her head.
Oh, my head kept being cut off. Do you want me to cut it in slivers?
Okay.
Slivers?
Yeah. So someone said always rinse the preserved lemons.
Yes, I've done that.
And someone said, Aura says, similar to pickled cucumbers. Are you saying that you rinse pickled cucumbers before eating? I don't, and I don't know if that's what you mean. Is that what you mean?
No, and I love pickled cucumbers.
Okay, so Harriet says, what do we use coconut sugar for? It isn't commonly used. You know, it's a lot of the people who are don't want to eat sugar, refined sugar, believe that it is less refined than white sugar or caster sugar or even raw sugar. So that's what they prefer to use. I bought it because I was sort of coerced by other people who said I shouldn't have so much sugar, but I don't really use it. Do you use it?
I like using it in this. It makes me feel a bit healthier. I'm not sure if that's right, but you know.
Okay.
Lisa's going to do the taste test and see if she can eat it raw. I can't. What do you think? Is it very lemony?
It's actually really nice.
Oh, now I'm going to have to try.
It's really salty.
Which end did you try from?
I didn't bite it. Did I bite it? No, I think I cut it in half. Okay. I mean, it's very, very tart.
Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I've tried it without rinsing.
Yeah, maybe that's the secret.
You definitely need to rinse.
Can you maybe cut those in half crossways so we can have they can go a bit further. But then, pretend this has been 10 minutes of cooking, but I just don't think it really matters at this point because we're going to keep cooking it anyway. We're going to add in the preserved lemon. And then it says cook till fork tender. And I think it is already fork tender. So we're going to put this in.
Do you want them that big?
Yeah, that's perfect. So you chuck them in for me. The meat looks lovely. It's really brown. The pieces could even have been cut bigger, I think. Would you have cut them a bit bigger,
Yes,
maybe?
I
Yeah.
like them about that big. Sorry, I'm choking on the lemon.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to set that aside to just keep going for a few more minutes. And we're going to talk about the almonds. Interestingly, I don't know about you, whenever I toast nuts, I don't use oil. I just
Yes, normally.
either in a dry pan or in the oven. But we think, and the
That
recipe
one needs to
indicates.
turn down.
Oh,
Another one.
thanks.
Recipe asks you to our default microphone, something.
Yeah. Okay.
The recipe asks you to fry the slivered almonds in the
Flaked
oil.
almonds.
Flaked
Yeah.
almonds, sorry, in the oil. And I think it just adds another dimension to it, because we were debating about before
Yeah,
whether we
yeah.
just dry fry them. But they become fried almonds, which is just, they're crunchy and it's worth it.
So we've got 20 grams of flaked almonds, which is about tablespoon and a half, if I had to guess. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's a handful. It's a little handful of nuts. Okay, so I'm going to put it in.
Yep, go for it.
And remember, do not leave the stove side now for anything at all. Not the doorbell, not the phone, nothing. Because what will happen?
They'll burn.
They'll burn in 2 minutes.
What did David, our stylist, used to say? You should really tie a string to your fry pan, to your apron, so you can't go anywhere, or the nuts will come with you anyway.
But I've got to say that's an OH&S issue.
Yes.
It's so unsafe, but it's a very funny thing because then you wouldn't go anywhere. I don't recommend it, but
No,
that's what he used to do, which was
Definitely a
hilarious.
good idea.
So we're going to cook these for a couple of minutes till they're brown. And then now while that's browning, I'm going to go away. You're going to watch them. And I'm going to talk about two things. One is the one we made earlier, and the other is couscous. Okay. So I'm concerned
This is a little analon pan too, a little non-stick analon pan. It's actually a really good size for frying nuts.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
All right, so just bear with me for 1 minute because my stove isn't working. So I don't know, and remember, you need to take them out just before they're ready because they will continue to fry on their own.
Some of these are very brown.
I know.
Can we change it?
I just, yeah.
Yep.
No, change a bit of a top.
Cooking very quickly.
Yeah,
Faster
okay, I
than
think
can
they're
stir.
ready. What do you think?
Well, I think
Yeah, I think they'll have to be. Yeah. So it probably should have been on a slightly lower heat. That was my fault.
Nice and done.
And we can talk about this too.
So
So
stop the cooking.
I think, you know, what better to have with a tagine than couscous? Someone said, can you use a store-bought stock? Absolutely, absolutely. I wouldn't use the cube in this, I don't think. You know, you can use chicken stock. You probably could use a cube, but you've got to be careful that you can't taste that cube flavour, which you know there is. So you probably could use it in this one. Would you use a cube?
Yeah, look, you know, there are times when that's all you've got at home, so that's what goes in.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk couscous. The way I do it is with no measurements, and oh, that's not the right bowl. That was the lamb juice bowl. That was not good. I just do it by feel, but it depends what brand couscous you're using. I've got this Sapori Mediterranean. I don't even know where it's from. And I'm going to do, and what's interesting is the people who put the label on the back, it must have been in Australia, covered all the instructions. So there's no instructions on this box.
You've got to wing it.
So I usually go 1 for 1. That's probably where I start. And I'm going to do 1 cup of couscous. So, yeah, I like this one because it's medium grain. It's not too fine. And I'm going to put that in the bowl. I'm going to put a bit of salt. And I've got in here,
That's a good pinch.
chicken stock, which is boiling hot. And this is packet chicken stock that I had left over that I kept in the freezer for a rainy day. And today's the rainy day. And of course you could use your own stock. And what we're going to do is pour it in. It's 1 cup and 1 cup. give it a stir, and immediately cover it with Glad wrap. And we just want to make sure it steams now. And in 10 minutes, it's going to be ready. I'll taste it. And if it's not cooked enough, I'll add a bit of hot stock and do it again. And if it's overcooked.
And you could use water if you didn't have stock, but it just gives it extra flavour.
Yeah, I think that it really actually needs.
I
think it really
stock.
needs the stock flavour.
Yeah,
Okay, so okay. Oh, so yes. So Debbie uses more dough stock. Yeah, I like the more dough as well. That's my favourite if I have to buy it. I think Maggie beer is also okay.
Remember we did that taste test?
Yeah, we did. We did actually.
We got all the stocks, and I think we even got
That's
a homemade one and tasted. And some of them are virtually water.
And the best one was the one from the butcher. The butcher made their own. So if your chicken shop or butcher makes their own stock, that's amazing. And I think, you know, we always had these grand plans when I was younger and used to go to lots of cooking classes. And we all used to sit there. There are a group of us who love to cook. And we used to say, oh, let's have a stock day and let's spend the day making chicken stock and beef stock. And anyway, we talked about it forever and we never did it once. And it's a funny thing, we still joke about it. But I think making stock is a thing. Like that beef stock that I made, I had to make French onion soup. I did make French onion soup for dinner. And the essence of French onion soup is a good stock. So there's no options there. There's no corners. No, there really aren't. Because someone told me, my nephew told me he made it with a beef stock cube and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And then he set the challenge for me to make a better one, which I did from the beef stock onwards, right? So I think, and I know that like making chicken soup, people think it's arduous to make stock. You put in so much effort and then you use it in 1 second. I get why people buy it because you fill your freezer and then it's gone in a second. So I always think if I'm going to make stock, I'd rather make soup and keep that in the freezer and buy stock, you know, if I can. Can you prepare couscous ahead? Yes, absolutely. And it heats beautifully in the microwave, really beautifully. So we're just going to leave that, and then we're going to fluff it up. Just here, I've got that here. Okay, this is what I'm going to show you. So I made this yesterday and I put it in the fridge overnight because I just want to show you the fat. And if you don't like fat, as I said, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But if you don't like that, it's really easy to just take it off like that and put it in another dish and chuck it out. I don't know that there's a use for beef fat. I mean, what is it? Lamb fat.
Oh, no. Wouldn't you like fry potatoes or something?
Has anyone done that? I don't think it's like duck fat or chicken fat. Has anyone got a use for lamb fat? Anyway, that'll do.
So that's what you can.
So what I would then do is reheat this either in a saucepan or in the microwave. What you use?
I'm a saucepan, but it'll go all nice and glossy again, which will be just delicious.
I'm just going to put it on in the microwave just for time. And let's go back to this one that we cooked earlier. The sauce is really shiny now. It's got the dates, the lemon, everything's in it, and we can put it in the serving bowl and then garnish it with our onions, which are very well done. So funny. We were so concerned about not overdoing the onions.
Any reason
not the onions,
for not using fresh ginger? Any rules for when to use both?
Yeah, it's not the spice that's needed in this recipe. It is the dry ginger, which has a completely different flavour. You could actually add fresh ginger into this when you're sauteing. It wouldn't be bad. Yeah. I think they're just good for different things. Okay, so I'm going to just spoon this into the bowl, serving bowl. It's so soft, the meat, and so gelatinous, which is why the shoulder is really the best cut for this. You can also use lamb neck if you're not a shoulder fan. I don't know why you wouldn't be.
I love lamb shoulder in any way, shape,
so
or form.
do I. So it's really lovely. The sauce is shiny and a bit oily, which I like. And you can see that 600 grams. That's probably good for 4, maybe 2 in my family. But for normal people, it's probably 4. What do you think?
Maybe 3.
Okay, and then we're going to garnish that with the toasted almonds. Perhaps did we over toast them?
We might have over toasted.
That's my fault. I had it up too high. So can't be perfect, right?
It's true. And I'm just going to take off some coriander leaves so we can strew them over the top.
So the nuts are lovely, and it's nice to have like the freshness of the leaf, the crunch of the nuts and the soft melting lamb. There's really nothing more delicious on a winter's night. Okay, so if you press Glad wrap onto the warm meat and put it in the fridge, yes, and you'll pull it out. Yeah, that's a great tip, Eve. Yeah. So if you put Glad wrap on the meat, like let it cool a bit, room temperature, put Glad wrap onto it, put it in the fridge overnight. When you lift the Glad wrap up, hopefully the fat will go with it. I actually do that. I do with my chicken soup. Chicken soup, I do paper towel. It does it.
Yeah, paper towel.
And Glad wrap also does it. And the other thing you can do is when you have chicken soup, and you know when you're in a hurry sometimes and you don't have the night to wait, I just get paper towel, I get Glad wrap and do exactly that, and the fat comes with it. That sort of risen to the top.
A very good tip.
All right, do you want to garnish that? Lovely thing.
Put the nuts first. I love these nuts because they're so crunchy. They are delicious.
So this is from yesterday. It's probably not quite hot enough yet, but I must have, I mean, this one's a bit darker because, because it's had the extra cooking time, and I can't actually tell you why it's much darker, but they taste the same. That looks absolutely beautiful. So that's the one from yesterday, which we're going to leave for the moment. This is the one from today. Let's see what our couscous is like. And then what you need to do is get a fork. I know you had a fork.
I had a fork.
Here it is. You need to fluff it with a fork.
Fluff your couscous.
Yeah.
That's the last
Okay, you can also pour the hot meat over ice cubes and the fat sticks to the cubes. Interesting, interesting. Hi, Rosh. Have you missed the honey? No, we didn't put the honey in because in the recipe that went into the book, it had no honey. We took it out. But you can substitute honey for sugar or use both depending on how sweet you like it. See, that looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that.
All that liquid's absorbed into the couscous.
And there's your couscous. Again, reheats really well. Glad wrap tight in the microwave. It almost reheats. It's actually better, I think, because you get another steam. You know. So that's it from us. There is our lamb tagine with dates, with couscous, and I would love to answer any more questions that you have. Happy to answer them now. Just make sure everything's off. So you can see it's pretty quick to make, except for the 2-hour cooking time. It's really a very easy dish.
It's a nice dish. There's not too many steps. It's just a matter of having your ingredients out ready to go.
Are we going to taste it?
And my family love it. We have it quite often because we really love it.
Can we taste?
Ooh. Can we taste?
I think we have to tell you if it's any good. So this is the one that had 15 minutes less cooking. Because we didn't. Oh, I thought a fork was better, which is why I gave you the fork. That's 15 minutes less cooking. So good.
And if you didn't want to use coriander, because you're not a coriander fan, you can use continental parsley and just chop that up and put it on top.
And then the one, so that's my spoon. I need to be COVID safe. And this is the one that I made yesterday. Oh, it's not quite warm enough yet.
The flavours are so beautiful.
Okay.
You can taste everything.
It's really, really good. I recommend you make it. Okay. Someone asked about stock. I use the Mordo or, hold on one sec. Jack's just talking.
I'll hold the fort. So I just want to tell you a very funny story also about Universal Studios. And that was that we were given a script to learn from for a week before we were going to Universal Studios. And we were supposed to learn our part and be as natural as possible, but very energetic on the show and go through our whole part. And we were learning day and night, saying it in the lift, saying it before we got to bed, saying it when we got up at breakfast, any time of day, just to try and remember what we had to say. When we got there, the man told us that we didn't need to say any of that anymore. He had scrapped all that and we had new lines to learn, at which time I basically freaked out because I can't learn them that quickly. And just before we were going on the show, he said, just be natural and just have good energy and don't worry about any of it.
It was very
funny story.
It was a very, very good experience. Okay, so I've got Mordo, which is the one I usually buy. I also buy, if it's on sale somewhere, I'll sort of stock up because it is quite expensive. And I also use Maggie Beer, which I quite like. But again, if your butcher or your chicken shop do it, I think that's a win for sure. This lamb shoulder, actually, which is so good, I got from Field to Fork in Vaucluse. They took it off the bone for me and did it really nicely. So that's my recommendation for this. I love it. I'm just dying to go away and eat this now. It's just too good, actually.
And someone suggested that you could sprinkle mint on top.
Yeah,
if
you
that's
could.
your choice, go ahead.
Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
need something green.
So the next Monday Morning Cooking Club event, I think, but not yet confirmed, is going to be on Friday, the 31st of July, when Tanya and I are going to do, would be good if I could remember what. Something
Something
social
delicious.
media.
It can only be
We are
delicious.
going to do something delicious. And some of you know that I, separately to Monday Morning Cooking Club, have been involved with a project called Dinera, which is Dunera. And as part of the Dinera, I've been doing some other cooking things. And on Thursday for Dinera, there is a really fun event called Pizza, Parmigiano and Pavarotti. And we've got a pizza cooking lesson, 2 opera singers, Ilan Kidron from Australia playing music. It's going to be hilarious and amazing. And my role on the day, which I'm actually very excited about, is, wait for it, I get to eat the pizza.
As long as you don't get to sing.
So Mel Donport's going to be teaching it and I get to eat it and drink Campari, so I'm not complaining. I know. So if you're interested in that event, you need to go to the Dinera website, which is dinera.org.au, and register. 11 a.m. Thursday, the 23rd of July.
I love the alliteration. Pizza.
Yeah. The name of the first stock is More Dough, like M-O-R-E, more, and dough, D-O-U-G-H, like more dough. Like cookie dough, like, yeah.
More dough.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining us. It's really been amazing. Oh, did we record the biscotti workshop? Yes, that was a Dinera event. And if you go to the Dinera website, the biscotti lesson is there as well. You can find everything there, actually. Thank you all. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it. It's been really fun. Thanks, Jacqui, for coming to the kitchen.
Pleasure.
We're going to go off and eat this whole thing because it's just too delicious. And we'd love to see your pictures on social media if you make it, or send us an email or a message.
What can they tag?
Hashtag
Monday morning.
MMCC Lamb.
MMCC Lamb. But Monday morning CC at Monday morning CC.
Yeah, so that's our Instagram, Facebook, we're Monday Morning Cooking Club. And just send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Tanya. Bye, Anita. I'm going to come around and, you know, there's always this awkward part where we're finishing, but we're not quite finishing because I've got to go all the way around there. See you later. Thank you for coming.
Bye.
I'm just heading over here. And Jackie's going to just smile at the camera while I just go, bye, everyone. See you later.